It gaff till a gaff. It gaff till a gaff. I'm illy with the till a gaff. Illy with the till a gaff. So welcome again to Freethinking, the Grand Go to Papa LS podcast. Today, I'm going to be going through something that I've always really wanted to have this discussion about. I've had it a million times, so I'm really happy to podcast about it. Today, I'll be talking about prostitution and thoughts, holes, all that kind of stuff. I know I ain't getting through this in 7 minutes, but I'm still going to set the bell, see if I get it all done in under 15. If not, it'll be 21. So let's ring the bell. Let's get this started. Okay. So this is, it's about prostitution today. They call it the oldest profession. And I'm about to tell you that actually, I think it's probably the only honest profession. So to me, prostitution is probably the oldest profession and the only honest profession. And here's the thing I really want to get to, straight to the point. There is a reason why married women, and in actual fact, women in general, are so hateful and disdaining of prostitutes and prostitution. And this is the bottom line. I know you're going to hate me for it, but this is what it is. You can't take the competition. That's why you are so disdaining and you look down on prostitutes. So basically what you have to do, what women do, is they pretend that prostitution is something that's horrible. It's something that's vile. It's something that's demeaning. And, you know, even if you believe that, and I respect that you believe that, you know, worst of all, then you demean the people involved in it, particularly the women involved in it. And you kind of basically play it off like they all have to be cheap, or they're scummy, or they're unclean, or they're thieves. And, you know, there's no real evidence to suggest that any of that's true. So I'm going to deep dive into this because, frankly, I'm just going to tell you straight. I know you're going to hate on me, but the bottom line is you just can't take the competition. You hate the idea. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to go back, take a step back. As I said, I've always been for women. And when I was younger, in my opinion, I was very confused. I was a radical socialist in the first instance. About the age of 13, I was involved in radical socialist political parties. I was a member, and you know we were taught that prostitution was something that was an abuse of women. Right now, you still may believe that, and that's absolutely fine. I don't have a problem with your viewpoint on that. But the whole idea of it was that, you know, women involved in it, who chose to be involved in it, were just stupid and ignorant and weren't intelligent and simply didn't know that they were being abused and that they were abusing themselves. Okay, again, this is debatable, but you see, my argument for that was always, well, then what about boxers? You know, you're talking about using your body for the entertainment of other people and for the use of other people. Well, you know, prize fighters, boxers, and a couple of other things that I could probably come up are all people who use their body in exactly the same way. And again, you can say, well, the average boxer is too stupid to know better. Therefore, he goes to the ring, gets his head beat around, or maybe he just chooses to do that because that's how he prefers to earn his living and make his money. And he's happy doing it. And most particularly with the women, it seemed very much that actually, rather than promoting the emancipation of women and their right to use their body anyhow they wanted to, this mentality, this viewpoint, that, you know, they were all being abused, and whether they knew it or not, whether they had decided to do this and they were happy doing it, they were wrong anyway, because we know better than you of what you should be doing with your body and how you should be using your sexuality. Actually, I realized it was actually quite oppressive. And again, that's where you get the full circle to realize that some of these so-called liberation movements are actually just other people with their own versions of ego, fascism, oppressing people. So as I said, I'm a libertarian. Do what you want to do with your body, with your life, as long as you ain't hurting other people. So, you know, that's where I'm coming from with that. So the point is, when I say that, you know, the women can't take the competition, the wives and the girlfriends, the wags, what it is that, you know, the thought of, rather than a cheap, nasty, scummy, unclean, thieving, untrustworthy stank hole, the thought of these women being kind, friendly, liberated, sexually adventurous, business-minded. Stormy Daniels, anyone? And a whole plethora of other women, you know, I mean, I know she was like a porn star, but, you know, again, someone who's selling sex or having sexual activity for money. The fact that these people may be women with degrees or MBAs choosing to do this as the way they choose to make their money, being happy and totally conscious in that decision, not being, you know, people who should have, you know, powers of attorney written for them because they're no longer in their right mind. And, you know, we as society have to jump in and go, no, if you're deciding to do that, you're obviously not in your right mind. So we're going to take over the power of attorney and decide what, you know, you can do with your body, because obviously you're no longer of sound mind and body. Well, no, they are. Some of these women are of sound mind and body. Now, in this point, I've got to jump in and make this absolutely clear. When I talk about prostitution, I'm not talking about human trafficking. That's different. And for me, The distinction is so blatantly obvious, it almost doesn't deserve to be mentioned. But for all the people who are going to want to jump and talk about this is clear. Human trafficking technically is kidnapping. If I kidnap somebody, whether I snatch them up off the street on a dark night, or whether I advertise a job as an au pair, take their passport and tell them they can't leave until they do one of many things. It could be prostitution. It could be working as a house servant. It could be taking off of my children. It could be like they do in, some of these developing countries, take a submachine gun and fight as a rebel in my war against the government. Whatever it is, if I kidnap you and force you to do something against your will, that's human trafficking. And human trafficking does involve prostitution, not what I'm talking about here. I don't want to go too much into the Belle, jour thing. I remember there's that TV program starring Billy Piper and everyone got mad about it. I mean, it was basically based on a book, and that's the whole point. It was based on a book about a woman who said, I worked as a prostitute for many years and my life was great. And again, everyone got mad at her. How dare you say that? All these women are being forced into shit. Well, I wasn't talking about them. Do you know what I mean? I was talking about me. I was talking about the fact that I was doing a job, whatever I was doing, I wasn't happy. I chose this other way of living, and it worked out really great for me. So, that's what I'm trying to say. If we get back to the reality that women have the right to do whatever the hell they want with their bodies, and they are of sound mind and body, and they make this decision to live and work in this way and earn their money in this way, and they are not stank, nasty, unclean, untrustworthy hoes, then your wives and your girlfriends can't stand the competition. Now, here's a quick example. I want to go. One of my favorite movies ever is a movie called Malena. Malena. It's an Italian movie. The first half of it gets a bit trying because it's basically about a teenage guy's obsession with this woman. But if you hang in there and watch this movie, it shows you the evolution of what happens to women who are beautiful and sought after. And in this particular example, how this woman who really had no intention of ending up in this particular situation of being a prostitute ended up that way. But I'm not really explaining it very well. You just have to watch the movie. It's an amazing movie. And again, the actual crux of that movie, the point of that movie, is simply that the other women in town couldn't stand the competition. Yeah, the men were acting like jerks, but frankly, they couldn't take the competition. And then, Malena's life became a tragedy based on that. So here's my answer to the question. You don't want your man with the thought, that hoe over there. You don't want your man with them stank money grabbing hoes. You don't want your man with a prostitute, whether she is ugly, scummy, untrustworthy and unclean, or a beautiful humanitarian spiritual person. Keep your man at home. That's the bottom line. It's really simple, not just with prostitutes, but if you don't want your man having an affair, keep your man at home. Keep your man happy. That sounds very sexist, Felix. Well, yeah, it does. But then, let me tell you men, I'm a married man. If I don't want my wife with a gigolo, prostitute, male prostitute, and or Bob the Butcher. I don't know if we got a butcher out here called Bob. I got to keep my wife at home. I got to put the effort and energy and love and commitment and consideration into my marriage that keeps her happy. And if I keep her happy, or at least I try my best to do that, then she's not going to be out of road. It's really as simple as that. There's nothing confusing going on here. If you don't want your person out of road with someone else, keep them at home. So let's just jump back to where I was going. As I said, so my point is, if there's problems in your relationship and you don't want to fix them, then, you kind of have no right to be complaining if your partner goes out of road. I can get into the whole marriage thing another day, because believe me, if I start talking about the marriage ceremony and what marriage means, this won't be 21 minutes. It'll be like 2.5 hours. But, just there was one interesting thing. I was watching a program just yesterday called Married at First Sight. And one of these people, the social experiment, which again, I might even do a podcast on because it was utter bullshit. But one of the people, the woman who married this guy at first sight, was very unaffectionate. She wouldn't even kiss him, wouldn't let him kiss her on the cheek. So basically one day she found out that he'd been texting another girl and asking her out because he felt so rejected and so dejected and wasn't getting any intimacy, not even a hug or a kiss, nothing coming back. And then she went all ballistic, like, how dare you, text another girl and ask her out for drinks? We're meant to be married. And it's like, married to what? It's like, nice for what? Or some Drake shit. You know what I mean? I ain't got no marriage here. I ain't got nobody hugging me and kissing me and paying attention to me and making me, feel good as a human being. So I thought I'd go out on the road and find someone who would do that. So like I said, if you don't want your partner with that hole over there, male or female, keep them at home. And I got to say, when we watched that, I watched it with my mother-in-law, my wife, and we was all there like, yo, and not at him, at her. we was all, you know what I mean? Wife and mum-in-law's like, yo, what you talking about? You won't even give the man a hug? And now you're talking about what's he doing next girl? Yeah, shut up. Even I was surprised, but that's the point. So, this is what you got to do. Keep your man at home. Keep your gal at home. Keep your woman at home. I've got to watch it. The sexist language. I've been pulled up on that 20 odd years ago, and there was truth in that. So here's an example, right? Let me tell you about my first understanding or experience of prostitution. Dun, dun, dun. No, it's not going to be that. So you hear the phone ringing and see my life is live, bro. I got to miss that call just to finish this podcast. So let me tell you about my first experience. I was working in the music business, and I had someone I worked with in the business, an exec, and basically his girlfriend was an ex-prostitute. And I was amazed. And because I'd come from this socialist background where, we were all super judgmental because we were the ones who knew everything about everything and how everyone should live their life. Well, I suppose that's what we expect if you're a Stalinist, Trotskyist socialist. You're basically training yourself to be a dictator, right? So, we knew everything about everything. So we was, so I came and I remember meeting this woman and she told me this thing and I recoiled, and it was horrible because I knew her, I knew him. We weren't at work. I was actually been invited to their house at dinner and we was talking. And she told me this, which is a personal thing about her life. And I'm sure she saw me recoil. I was there with them and their daughter. And my reaction was I was a real asshole. I didn't, insult them or do anything. Like that. I'm not that kind of guy. But I remembered being shocked as hell. Like, oh, you're one of those. Like I was going to pull out a crucifix. Do you know what I mean? But that just goes to show, like I said, the stigma is the word I'm looking for. Attached to these people who engage in this kind of stuff is insane. And she wasn't particularly ashamed of it, which now I'm really proud of. I just wish that I was more involved to have had a proper conversation with her about it. Then the next thing that happened, a couple of years later, I was working in IT in this company, and there's a girl. I know she was very lonely. She tried to date a couple of guys in the company and it all gone badly. And we were cool. Me and her were cool. Do you know what I mean? Really wasn't my type, but we was cool. And one day she told me that she was leaving. So I was like, okay, you're leaving. That's cool. What are you going after? She goes, I'm going to be a prostitute. So I was like, you're so funny. And she's like, nah, serious. I'm going off to be a brass. And I was like, what are you talking about? She goes, nah, I'm going off to be a brass. Because basically what she said was this. She goes, listen, and I'd seen elements of this in me seeing her, living, seeing her at work, right? And the guy she dated, she goes, listen, man, I go out every single weekend. I meet some guy. He chats me up. He tells me he likes me. He gives me all this stuff, blows smoke up my ass. We go back to my place, his place. We fuck. He doesn't call me in the morning. I get fucked and dumped every single week. And then she's like, but yo, I got a friend and she's a prostitute. And she goes, yo, I get fucked, but I choose who I have sex with. I don't get dumped because I never wanted any of them to be my boyfriend. I had no aspirations for any relationship with these people. And I earn money. And she said, and I'm earning so she's earning a hell of a lot more money sleeping with guys who she chooses to sleep with, who pay her for the service, than I'm earning sitting here in this office. So, allow that, I'm off to be a brass. And then, in a similar vein, there was the whole, Neil Strauss thing in the book, The Game, where he went into competition. That competition apparently happened in that club with Heidi Fleiss. Where she said, you think you're a player, you're a pickup artist, but I can turn more girls out than you. And she went around literally just saying exactly the same thing as my friend had said to me when I was working in IT, that listen, you're up here in this club, these pickup artists are gonna chat to you, talk to you nicely, trick you, go home, So as I said, that she was saying that these guys are gonna go home, it's gonna come up to you, talk nice to you, trick you, take you home, sleep with you, and then dump you. So why don't you just, if you're going to get treated like that, why don't you be in control of it and earn some money? And not only earn some money for doing it, it's not just about material, but also being in control of that process rather than being used, being at least, in control so you're not being used, or even better, being the one who's doing the using. So that's the deal. Now, I want to jump into what are the roots of this? Why is this such a contentious issue? Because I made the example of boxers. I also made the example of coal miners. I was like, I had this conversation with somebody many, many years ago, and I was like, you shouldn't use your body, it's damaging for you. I said, what about coal miners? I have a very good friend who, who's from Wales, and he's telling me about his dad who used to work down in the pits and, had the dust. I can't tell you the exact story. I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comment boxes, but how, long story short, the dust over a period of time solidifies and basically turns your lungs into rock dust that you get from being in the coal mines, and you die a horrible death. So, at the end of the day, it's ain't like only prostitutes are using their bodies in ways that are damaging to them. You know, that's rubbish. A large proportion of people working are using their bodies in those ways. So, you know, what is it all about? Well, the bottom line is this: the roots of this prejudice, the roots of this stigma is this concept that sex is sacred. It's this particularly Christian, I say Christian concept, because I say this simply because, you know, all religions that predate Christianity basically had a different view of sex. And you see that in things like in the carvings, you know, Egyptology and the Hinduism and stuff like that. They have a very different view of sex. They have sex is very much a part of the religion in certain respects. I don't get into that, but, you know, I'm just skimming over that. A very different thing came in with this monotheistic God, this monotheistic belief, but just very reserved approach to sexuality. This whole concept that sex is sacred. And, you know, from the Catholic perspective, sex is only to have babies. And the way I look at it, man, I don't know. I ain't speaking for God, but from the way humans are believing, that definitely isn't true. And I don't believe it ever was true. Sex was never only about making children, and therefore it was never ever particularly sacred in that way. But here's another thing that's interesting. You know, you break that down and you come back again from, you know, there's the beginning of AD, and you start looking at royal marriages. Well, what were royal marriages about? Royal marriages in the 15th, 16th, 17th century was basically about uniting countries. So you had two people who had no interest in each other, sometimes had never even met, but their parents were telling them, well, you have to marry, you know, Prince Leopold of Belgium, or so and so of France, or so and so of England, or so and so, because, you know, basically our countries are about to go to war, or our countries are at war, and we need to make peace. So what were the people engaging at doing that? Well, they were basically marrying each other and consummating, you know, sex being the consummation of the marriage for profit. For the profit, financial profit, or, you know, for the security of not having a war. And then you see that trickle its way down where you see like the big families basically saying, okay, we want our children to marry, you know, the heir of this hotel chain. We want to marry the heir of this car fleet because, you know, our children this is going to merge our businesses together. And, you know, me personally, I think I've seen that more recently. The best example I have, rest in peace, is Michael Jackson when he married Lisa Marie Presley. You know, because that's where you see somebody literally, I mean, in my mind, I thought it was so cynical. You know, I didn't for 1 second believe that they met and fell in love. I thought that they thought the genetic material of a Jackson and a Presley was going to make uber entertainer. So they thought they'd mixed the genetic material. But actually, that's really what all these that's why royalty been marrying their cousins for 400 years, as opposed to Aborigines who ain't even allowed to look at their sister once they hit puberty because they're not meant to mix the bloodline. Royalty been marrying their family for hundreds of years because they believe in that kind of genetics. Eugenics. Basically, people have been doing this, you know, using sex in that way for a very long time. And I think there's some other examples. I ain't going to call no names, so I'm not hating. But I figure anywhere you see a celebrity couple, that you look at the two people and go, boy, how did they get together? Did they really share the same interests? I wonder if they really, 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 really have a spark and they're in love. That's just eugenics, man. That's just 21st century cult of celebrity eugenics. Let's make an Uber baby because our Uber baby is going to be the next generation star. So, you know, I said prostitution isn't only for financial gain. It's also for genetic gain too. I live out here in Spain and, I think prostitution is decriminalised out here. I say it's decriminalised because I remember a few years ago, the prostitutes had a march. The prostitutes were working in a particular polygonos, like an industrial estate. They were being mistreated or thought they'd been moved on. And they weren't allowed to work there. So they marched through the streets of Malaga. And it's funny because I'll never forget, there's a photo that I'll never forget where there's a woman holding a placard. And it said, Los políticos no son mi hijos. Basically because, you know, it said like, you know, we call the politicians sons of bitches, or whatever, sons of whores. And they were like, no, the politicians aren't our children. You know, it's like a very funny placard. But the point was these prostitutes were marching through Malaga for better rights. Now, I ain't never seen drug dealers. I ain't never seen drug dealers marching through town with placards talking about better treatment. So I figured the situation out here is prostitution's decriminalised. There are loads of brothels. There's a brothel in every single major town out here. So there's some kind of decriminalisation. I don't know what the exact legal classification is, but there's something like that going on. In the business I do, I work with a lot of men. You know, we have what you call the whole, I think it's called the entertainment budget, which is basically what, you know, people do. But the bottom line is a lot of these guys come out here, they're looking at properties, they're looking at investments and they ask me to go to this place. And I've been to some of these places. That's as simple as it is. And like I said, in my personal view of the profession, I don't have a problem with that because I don't have a problem with the people who work in there unless it's something related to human trafficking. And out here, because it's decriminalized, I don't think there is, I think there is less of that. And that's my opinion and my understanding. And the point I'm going to make is to, when I'm in these places, I am not meeting money grabbing, scandalous, evil, unclean, immoral hoes. Actually, I'm meeting generally what seem like very nice ladies. So I was going to make another example, but I'm not going to even go into that one because that's a bit way out. But, I'm meeting what seem to be very generally nice ladies. Some of them with women, single mothers with children who are working that particular job because it brings them money fast and allows them to have more time with their children. Some who with husbands, some with husbands you know, some with husbands you don't know. So while you're talking about money grabbing scandalous hoes, sir, make sure you ain't talking about your wife on the sneak. In fact, there was someone even told me a joke about how a lot of women used to work at a local supermarket, pop into the brothel on the way home, do 2 hours there for their pin money, and then go home to their husband. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I've been told. I don't know if it was a joke or not, but that words definitely came out of the mouth of somebody in one of these places. A lot of women, obviously foreigners who are working we've got this whole thing about economic migrants, everyone hating economic migrants. Well, a lot of these women are out here working. They're not legal. It's one of the few places they can work, but they choose to work in that place because they can earn money quickly and they can either pay to become legal and or pay to send back money to their home country, just like our parents did in the Windrush. I'm not comparing our Windrush parents to prostitutes. The point I'm making is economic migrants go to countries where they can earn more money and they can find a way to earn more money than they can from their own country and send that money back to improve the lives of the people that they've left behind who cannot earn that kind of money. Those are the kind of people I meet. And yes, you do get into some quite in-depth conversations while you're sat in a bar drinking a €10 beer, waiting for somebody to finish what they went there to do. Let me put it that way. So I've had a few conversations and that's how I know this. So my point is, man, this is not the oldest profession. I think it's probably the only honest profession because it's really a very, in its truest form, simple exchange. Somebody, wants to be with somebody sexually and is willing to pay for it. And somebody is willing to take that money to be with that person sexually. As I said, anything that involves someone being forced into this act is not prostitution. It could be called a lot of other things. It could be called a kidnapping. It's definitely kidnapping in some respects. It could be called forced labor. It could be called anything, but that's not what we're discussing. We're talking about somebody who, of their own free will, makes a decision to enter into this trade as a business. So yeah, one of the things I wanted to break down, one of my favorite skits on an album, hip hop albums always have skits, is the Eddie Griffin skit on the Dr. Dre, the Chronic 2 album. And he goes, biggest pimp on planet Earth is your mama. It was your mama who said, get a guy with a good job, girl. Get a guy with a car, girl. And actually, all the men was like, hurrah, because we know he is absolutely motherfucking right. You know what I mean? Now that has trickled down where I live. We see that in Puerto Banús, where, we got the girls who go down to Puerto Banús to bag a footballer. They know that all the rich celebrities go to Puerto Banús. So they're like, I'm going to go to Puerto Banús and dress up nicely. And hopefully I bag a footballer and maybe I can date this guy and now become a wag and I get social status and I can get brought into the whole celebrity lifestyle. And again, I did a podcast on, sexual misconduct. And as I said, when you put yourself in that situation for that reason, you really are opening up a Pandora's box of problems for yourself if that's your motivation. If your motivation is to, get yourself some social status and some fame and maybe even a career based on that, then, you're in there for the wrong reasons. So then if you're putting yourself in a very bad situation. So the bottom line is this, anybody engaging in any sexual relationship with anybody else for any reason other than you genuinely like them and you're attracted to them, if you're doing it for anything other than that, if there is any kind of financial or material or social status or social gain, you, my friend, are a prostitute. That's my definition, right? Sex is sacred, not so much to me. But if you want to engage in sex with somebody, you should do it because you want to have sex with them. That's it. If the reason you're having the sex with them is because of money, or because they're famous, or because you think they're going to make you famous, or because all your friends like them, you're prostituting yourself. If you don't want to be there for the sex, you're prostituting yourself. Now, in this whole conversation, I've got to just throw in there, and this ain't blowing smoke up the ass. This is just the truth. One of the reasons why I respect my wife so much is because without a doubt, when she met me, I was broke as fuck. I was a struggling musician, and all she saw was potential. So there is absolutely no version of our relationship that said she got with me for any kind of financial gain. We've been in a couple of short years. I was working in IT and pulling down like 3 figures. And in a couple of short years after that, we had a property portfolio when we was in the, asset wise in the mills. But when she met me, I was capital B broke. So there is never a version of me that will ever be able to turn around and say that she tried to use me for money. She was the most genuine person I met. All she saw was potential, and I'll always love her for that. And here's the point, man. I want to make this real clear. It ain't just women in prostitution. Lots of men prostitute themselves. Lots and lots of men prostitute themselves. Lots of men marry women for money. The whole concept of the gigolo has been around since the dawn of time also. And I've seen it with my own eyes. Again, when I worked in the music business, there was particularly one mediocre singer on my label, the label I was on, not on my label, but on the label I was on, one mediocre singer who had the biggest budget of the label. He was pushed on every radio station, every single show, posters up and down the country, everywhere you could market a guy. Although he made pretty much the worst music. Why? He was sleeping with the label boss. Did he love her? I highly doubt it. And then it comes back around to the whole concept of the casting couch. So, again, as happy I am and elated I am about the hashtag Me Too movement and the fact that, and the time's up, the fact that, we're calling times up on men who sexually abuse women, who force women into sexual acts, use their power to, do sexual things to women that are unwarranted. They also have to accept and bring into discussion the casting couch. That yes, there are men who will say, right, well, if you want this position, you want this job, you want to get your record put out, or you want to get in this movie, you're going to have sex with me. And that is 100% hashtag Me Too material. The problem is a lot of women are like, okay, because they're prostituting themselves. That's cool. I will have sex with you, Mr. Weinstein, if you will put me in the next project and get me the potential of having an Oscar. Sounds like a good deal for me. Well, that's prostitution. And I ain't mad at them. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing. They've made that decision to do that to further their career. I'm mad at them from the perspective of art and for other artists and for other people who could have done that role better or who have got better morals. But if that's the transaction they've done, then that's the transaction they've done. So the point is, it's not just that the casting couch isn't always a situation where someone's forced on the casting couch. Frankly, we all know that some women come in the office and jump on the casting couch and say, which position do you want me? So, I'm going on, but it's a conversation I've had a million times and it really interests me. So, as I said, bottom line, the exchange of sex for money, for favors or benefits. That's really, as I see prostitution. I was going to Google it to give you the Webster's definition, but I got time to do that, man. I'm scraping time just even to do this podcast. But that's how I define prostitution. Basically, it's the exchange of sex for money or for favors or for benefits or for social status or for anything other than the fact that you genuinely just want to have sex with that person. It's rampant in all walks of life. Again, I have to say, we are not talking about human trafficking. Human trafficking is kidnapping. There are kids fighting in developing countries with submachine guns who were kidnapped as orphans, given guns and told you have to go shoot in that direction. And there are women who are kidnapped and or tricked into being told that you have to go and have sex with that man in that direction. It's all kidnapping. That's human trafficking. I'm talking about people who are of sound mind and body, look at their options and decide that, you know what I want to do? I think I want to do this. I'm liberated. I enjoy sex. And I think this is the way I want to make my money. And as I said, so people get mad at it because sex is sacred, but bullshit. I call bullshit on that. Sex is no longer sacred if it ever was. There are lots of people who go out every single weekend, get drunk and particularly high, go home and have sex with somebody and they barely even remember who the hell they had sex with. And it's funny for me because I never remembered I had this conversation with some of the guys many, many years ago. And, the conversation was, have you ever had sex with a woman you didn't like, or had sex with a woman you didn't want to have sex to? Oh, sorry, had sex with a woman you didn't want to have sex with? And everyone's hands went up. Everybody's hands went up, which begs the question. Well, if you didn't want to have sex with that person, why were you there having sex with them? What was your motivation? Was it money? Was it status? Was it to make them happy? Was it to impress your boys? Because all your boys were around and like, yeah, go and do it. And you're like, I ain't even attracted to this person, but all your boys behind you. So you get the social status by being, a Mac because you slept with that woman, but actually you didn't even find her attractive. We never even got into that day as to what the motivation behind it was. But I know that everybody's hands went up when someone said, have you ever had sex with somebody who you actually did not want to have sex with and you wasn't attracted to? So in wrapping up, it's been a long one, but it's a big topic and I know it's very contentious. So I wanted to try and do it justice. If you did it for money or social status or material gain or for social proof or for your position in society or to make somebody else happy or admire you or for any other reason other than you were physically attracted to and wanted to have sex with the other person, you a hoe. You a thought. You are a prostitute. But here's the good part. I don't hate you. I respect you. I think you have the right to use your body in any way you see fit as long as it doesn't involve hurting other people. That's the bottom line. So all my hoes out there, all my prostitutes, throw them up, put them up in the air proud. Don't let nobody put you down. Don't let motivational speech for women involved in prostitution and men involved in prostitution. Yeah. Throw your hands up. Be proud. Be proud of what you are, because this society is full of fucking hypocrites. Do you know what I mean? The first people who are going to diss you and talk about you and say that you shouldn't be doing what you're doing are your best customers. And we know that. All round the back, while they're talking about how you shouldn't be doing what you're doing, if they're in church, they're molesting little boys who didn't even ask. There's no transaction in the molestation of a child. I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? So the people who want to diss you are the biggest hypocrites. So don't fall for that. And that's why we're free thinking. We don't fall for that. You know what I mean? Human trafficking in every possible way or aspect wrong. Being kidnapped wrong. Molestation of children in the laws we abide by, or in my personal view, until you have reached an age of an adult, you're not even in a position to make those kind of decisions. Therefore, you don't have a choice. If it's not your choice, wrong. Prostitution, do your thing. I've been talking a long time. Here goes the bell. Free thinking, Grand Go to Papa, lifestyle, channel, podcast, comment, hate some more. I'm sure a lot of you are going to hate even more than that. But let me know what you think, and let's keep the debate going, and let's keep learning from each other. It gaff till a gaff. It gaff till a gaff. I'm in with the till a gaff. Illy with the till a gaff. Nit gaff, nit gaff. Nit gaff.